Hi, everybody. My name is Shaunti Feldhahn. I am one of the leadership team of the Church Cares initiative, and I'm going to show you visually a vision of the Church Cares briefly using what we call the triangle model. And the idea is for me to explain this to you, and hopefully this will make it very easy for you to explain this to others as well. So let me share my screen and we will get started with this quick, hopefully, presentation. So, the vision of the church cares is captured in the book When Hurting People Come to Church. That is by me and my co author, Dr. James Sells, who is a clinical psychologist, a leader at a Regent University, and is the leader of the Church Cares initiative. We are proposing that the church rethink its model of care slightly. The church has been caring for people so well for 2,000 years in the name of Jesus. And we think that there is a need to return to some of what may have shifted over the last 40 or 50 years as care has become increasingly professionalized. Think of the need in the church and the care available in the church as these two triangles. The left hand triangle, you can divide it into these three buckets. At the top are the people with the really significant issues. Now, this is mental health issues, emotional issues, marriage issues. It could be anything that causes distress, but it's pretty significant. For example, suppose it is a woman who has really serious postpartum depression and can't get out of bed. Maybe her husband is worried about the baby. He does not know what to do. This could be also it could be a marriage where the divorce lawyers are on the verge of being called. It could be someone who's blowing up their life with addiction, trauma, whatever that is. The next level down, you could call these people, they're needy, but they're functional. This is maybe the woman with the postpartum depression, but she can get out of bed. She goes to work every day or she cares for the baby every day, but she's just really having a hard time. Maybe this is the person with addiction who has been okay in past, is in a difficult season right now, but he's functional, he's going to work. The bottom bucket is just everybody else. It's people with pain. This is, for example, your mother may have passed away and you're grieving. Of course, you're sad. That is totally normal. Life pain happens to all of us. This is the marriage that is just there's just a lot of conflict and they don't know what to do. Now, think of the right hand triangle as the church's ability to respond to the various needs. So, as you go up in the triangle, you go to more authority and you go to more specialization. So, at the top of the triangle, you have pastors, and by extension, the mental health professionals that they refer to. At the next bucket down, you have what you might call trained helpers. Now, these aren't clinicians, but these are, for example, maybe this is a lay counselor. Maybe this is the head of the recovery ministry at the church who had gone through addiction themselves years ago and for years now has gotten very well trained and walks people through the recovery process. Maybe this is Stephen ministry. These are people who are trained 50 hours of training to walk alongside those with significant pain. And then at the bottom of the triangle, you could say these are lay listeners. This is everybody else. These are the people who, when your mother died and you're grieving, you want to have coffee with a friend. This is the person that you instinctively reach out to because you know that they will listen. So this is sort of that bucket of people who exists in every church. This is the marriage mentor. This is the person when you're having a difficulty in your marriage, you just automatically want to reach out to this couple and have dinner. Here is the issue. What happens today is that everybody in the left-hand triangle gets funneled to the top of the right-hand triangle. All of the need tends to go to the pastor and by extension to the professional that they refer to. And that may be a counselor, a therapist, it may be a psychiatrist, it may be a medical issue, but it all goes to that top triangle. And so it's not surprising that our clinical system and our pastors today are overwhelmed. How do we know that? Well, there have been many studies that have been done on the clinical system being overwhelmed by the current mental health crisis. In many cases, there are weeks of waiting lists. Many people are not taking new clients at all. And many people can't afford the costs of that anyway. And we know the pastors are overwhelmed because we completed for the book a study of more than 2,000 pastors and church leaders in order to understand their experiences around mental health. And that is a consistent theme, is that they want to help everybody, and yet they know that they can't. So here's what we're proposing. Rather than this system where all the needs get funneled to the top of the triangle, what would happen if we started maybe funneling them by level a bit more? Now, this is not saying that someone with a lower level of need doesn't see a professional, of course not, or doesn't see the pastor, but just that we think of it more in this direction. So, those who have the most serious issues, of course, need the most significant help. The people who are functioning but have the need, maybe a trained helper can come alongside. And the people who have the life pain, perhaps there are lay listeners that are trained. And they don't, it's not the level of training that like a Stephen ministry or one of these others could do. This is perhaps just a few, sessions, a few hours of training. We have a training at the Church Cares Initiative. There are others out there, but it's basically raising up a layer of lay care in the church to talk to the people who have the basic needs, not trying to cover the needs that don't belong there, but the basic ones. And so maybe in this vision, the woman who has the postpartum depression, she who is really significant, she is referred, very likely referred to the mental health professional. But you know what? Her husband may need to see the pastor. And right now, the two of them probably can't get in as quickly as they need to because those people at the top are really overwhelmed by the rest of the need. Maybe the person whose addiction keeps coming back or a marriage that's in crisis gets referred to a marriage ministry or gets referred to the recovery ministry. There are many ways that that can play out. And the person with pain, perhaps they just need somebody to walk alongside. This is perhaps it's a trained lay listener who walks with them for a number of weeks or a number of months and then gets them into a small group, gets them into some sort of community that will help. One of the things that Dr. Jim Sells, the co-author on this book, told me not long ago is he said, look, I can, as a licensed psychologist, I can help with symptom reduction. But if somebody doesn't get into community and fellowship, the symptoms aren't going to stay reduced for very long. And so we're proposing raising up this level of lay care, which we found in the survey does not exist in most churches. However, there are churches that it does exist, and this is often what the strategy looks like. And this is the model that we are proposing. We call it the church care strategy, and care stands for coordinated attention, restoration, and encouragement. So coordinated by level. So as we said, now the key piece that also needs to be added is to have a coordinator in the middle who basically conducts the triage, who talks to the person seeking help and funnels them into, okay, this person really actually does need clinical care. Let me tell the pastor. We'll see if we can get them in quickly. But it could be that they say, this person just needs someone to walk alongside. For example, I was interviewing and speaking with a pastor not that long ago who said that after the services on Sunday that week, after he had preached, a woman came up to him just in tears and saying, I need to talk to you. I was sexually abused as a child. It's impacting everything in my life. I don't know how to get past it. And he was like, I feel kind of helpless because it's going to be weeks before I can get her in to see me. And I'm just going to refer her. I know I'm going to refer her out because I'm not a specialist. I don't know how to deal with that kind of trauma. And I said, absolutely. Let me give you an additional vision. Imagine that when she came up to you, You could have said, I'm so sorry that you are dealing with this. And I will absolutely try to work you in. It's going to be a few weeks. So, in the meantime, I'm going to have Bonnie, who is our coordinator, call you. She's a retired nurse. She's great at talking to people, and when Bonnie calls and talks to this woman, she says, maybe we do get you into the pastor. I'll see if we can do that as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, we have people in the church who are just trying to listen and walk alongside. And I know one of them actually has dealt with this exact issue of sexual abuse in her past, and she really has a heart to help other people who are going through that. So I'd really like to connect you with her. Now, imagine that is the church being the church, right? It doesn't preclude referring out, but it also says maybe even as we refer out, it's really more referring with, and that as the person seeks maybe a higher level of care, they also have the ability to walk alongside someone in the church. So that is the church care strategy. We encourage that the coordinator be a volunteer, a layperson. Maybe it's the clinical, care director of, a counseling center down the road who volunteers 2 hours a week to be that person. It could be the care pastor, but we're trying very hard to not add more burdens to the average pastor's um, plate. And for those of you who are pastors who are listening to this, thank you for what you do. And we are hoping that adding this level of lay care is a support to you. So that is the presentation. I hope that that was made simple. You can go to thechurchcares.com for equipping and resources such as a free listener training. And it is free because a wonderful donor who wants the church to be able to step into this space has grant funded all of these resources. So we hope the book, When Hurting People Come to Church, is helpful to you.